What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Nice Catch Podcast. We're here to catch you up on all the latest football news and analysis. I'm Baden.
And I'm Hank. Today, we're catching you up on all the NFL headlines, like the Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper trades, and we may have our best bottom 10 and top 10 yet.
Agreed.
These are some good ones.
Oh yeah, just keeps getting better.
Exactly. And you have to wait for it. So let's jump in with a topic that isn't as fun to talk about as what we're going to get to soon. But
still important.
Still really important because this is a big headline. It's just all the injuries.
Continuing
this week. Well, a couple of these are from but since we've had our last episode. But a quarterback out for the season in Deshaun Watson. Maybe it was time for him to get benched, but you never like to see a quarterback going out like that. Torn Achilles, and obviously a lot of pain, and just doesn't get to play again. One play, it's all over. And another quarterback injury, Aiden O'Connell for the Raiders. That's what happens when you bench Gardner Minshew. You just can't get away from him. But he'll be on IR with a hand injury, I believe.
Yeah.
And then lots of wide receiver injuries, and strangely 4 star wide receivers, but from 2 different teams.
Yeah.
You got Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, and then Godwin and Mike Evans both out.
Yeah.
Baden, what do you think that brings to these offenses now? How do you think they're going to overcome losing their top 2 receivers?
I think...
Or are they even going to?
That's the thing, is, you see the Chiefs. Okay, let's take the Chiefs, for instance. Their top 2, or their receiving core has been struggling this year. Well, I mean, even with Kareem Hunt having to come back in, he was playing well for their running game. He was helping move the ball for the Chiefs. With the Bucs and with the 49ers, that, at least in this last game, that wasn't there. The run game isn't there. So that changes a lot for the team. Obviously, you have Christian McCaffrey out, and Jordan Mason, he's been good, but not as consistently, especially these past, last game, definitely not. And then Rachaad White, also just inconsistent. Not anything compared to last season. So I think it's going to change the outlook on the NFC a lot. Because, I mean, really, I don't know if it's recoverable. And even, if maybe they're able to come back soon, I don't think all of them will. That still gives you, I mean, this is the time in the season where if you get 2-3 losses under your belt, it changes it can put you really far back in division standings and playoff standings. So I hope it's recoverable because I love both these teams, but it definitely doesn't look good, I would say.
Yeah, and Ayuk, torn ACL, Godwin, dislocated ankle. That just, ugh.
Yeah.
Both of them are out for the season. Mike Evans, hamstring injury.
Yeah.
I think he's week to week. It should be 3-ish weeks till he's back. Deebo Samuel seems more like a freak injury. He had fluid in his lungs.
Yeah.
And so does not sound fun.
Nuh-uh. And that can be very, very dangerous. I think pneumonia is what he had, which obviously caused the fluid in the lungs and everything. But so hopefully Deebo will be able to come back. And the thing with even if it's maybe 3 weeks and Mike Evans is back, it's so easy once you do kind of weaken that hamstring to tear it, to pull it, to that be a longer injury than you want it to be. And so, maybe we see him come back in a few weeks. Maybe it's a lot longer because, it's – you got to think about it because, if you're pretty good and you come back in 3 weeks, hurt it again, and you're out for the season, it's better to maybe take 6 weeks and then be healthy.
Definitely.
So we'll just see how that goes. But, man, it really sucks. And it's really hard it's really hard watching that in the same week, same teams, and both really, really good teams. I mean, playoff teams that it looks a lot different now.
Yeah. And then one of the more heartbreaking injuries of the season, Aiden Hutchinson. This was the week before last. And, the Lions, they seem to be okay, but man, one of the best players in the league, despite the fact that he's in his second year, broke his leg, out for the season. Well, apparently there's a good chance that if the Lions make it to the Super Bowl, that he'd be back.
He'd be back for the Super Bowl?
Which, a very Aiden Hutchinson thing. He's not going to, if he can play, he's going to play.
Yes, sir.
But, man, just a fan favorite and ending his season like that. Heartbreaking, even as, I may have hopped on the Lions bandwagon a little bit, but even as not a Lions fan, so hard to watch Aiden Hutchinson go out like that.
Yeah.
I think those are the main injuries. Another headline I want to cover that I mentioned was the trades. The main two, we've seen Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper, and we'll talk more about their impact later. Maybe a top 10, bottom 10 sneak peek. You can guess which one's in which. But trade deadline's coming up in a couple weeks, and this just makes me wonder who's next. And I've seen a lot of predictions on who could be traded. And I have some opinions. I don't know. It's always hard to judge trades. Devontae Adams, we saw that coming. Amari Cooper, I didn't see that coming.
Did not see that coming.
And so we'll see. Baden, are there any players that you think that they're going to be traded by the deadline, or any teams that you think need to make a trade by the deadline?
I know you've seen it too, but I've obviously seen the Garrett Wilson, people thinking he might be traded. I think we'll have to see if Devontae Adams meshes. Because if he doesn't, then I think trading Garrett Wilson would be a major mistake. Obviously we're just one game in, so we got time to see how that works out. But, there's obviously that. Now that I think that adds another thing to it as you see these two teams losing receivers, that could warrant a trade. Maybe not a Garrett Wilson trade, but some trades to build up that receiving core a little bit. Bring in a number 1 guy for now that maybe next year would be a number 3 guy. But I think that could be something we see, especially with all the injuries just around the league, as people having to fill these holes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, though.
For sure. Yeah, I do think Garrett Wilson could help another team out a lot, but, again, I don't know if the Jets would be willing, especially maybe training him up under Devontae Adams, helping him learn from one of the greats. But some other guys that I've seen rumors floating around, Travis Etienne, obviously the Jaguars are not having a great season, and Tank Bigsby is outplaying him. Yeah. And so if he can help a team out who has a really poor run game, the Cowboys obviously are a team with a terrible run game this season. Or other teams that are just struggling with the run, then he could be a big help there. One that I've seen floating around that most reporters say is not likely, which makes sense, is Myles Garrett.
I saw that.
Because the Browns,
I can't see that.
They seem to be in rebuild mode. They have 1 win on the season. Quarterback goes down. They already traded Amari Cooper. There's just not a lot going for them, and they could just trade Myles Garrett for the last 2 years of his career and say, you know what, we're restarting. I don't know. I could see it happening. It would have to be a blockbuster trade, especially because that's the Browns saying that we're done for the next few years. Because Myles Garrett he's the kind of person that will anchor down a defense, but if you realize that you're not going to be contenders in the time that he's on your team, then it might be worth it. Just have draft capital for the future with some younger guys.
For sure.
Those are the trades that, in my mind, make a lot of sense. The ETN trade makes sense, except for the fact that he and Trevor Lawrence went to school together. But at this point, I don't think that really matters.
This far into it.
And Myles Garrett, I think it'd be cool to see it happen. Let him get a ring, assuming that he won't get a ring on the Browns. Let him get a ring before he retires. But, again, that's like, the Angels trading Ohtani. It's like you're trading such a good player.
Yeah.
But we'll see. One more thing I want to cover before we move into bottom 10 and top 10. Maybe we can just give a few waiver wire fantasy tips here after this. Because I know with all the injuries, there's some players that need to be picked up in some leagues. But the Steelers quarterback battle. This is really interesting because before this week, most people, it seems, would say Justin Fields should be the starter. He's carried the Steelers to where they are now. He has the run game, with his rushing ability. But Russell Wilson beat the Jets, who the Jets handily aren't a great team, but he played really well, had great touch on his passes, and he looks like a great quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Even Russell Wilson, after getting away from the Broncos, which is something that I will say is overplayed a little bit, because the Broncos were pretty bad, but a lot of it was the defense's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson, I think, has if I remember the stat correctly from Sunday night, a 20-game stretch of throwing a touchdown each game. So it's not Russell Wilson's fault that the Broncos were as bad as they were.
Yeah.
But this quarterback battle is going to be interesting, especially for the team that has a chance not only for a playoff spot, but for one of the best divisions in football, talent-wise. They have a good chance to win their division.
Yeah.
And so,
like you're saying, is saying a lot for the division that they're in.
And another thing, one of them could be a trade candidate. Russell Wilson would probably only be a trade candidate for a team like the Dolphins, who are supposedly getting Tua back next week. But, if something goes wrong there again, Russell Wilson would be the kind of quarterback to step in there. Justin Fields, if Russell Wilson does take the starting job, Justin Fields is a good player to continue to develop and hopefully build into a starter. Seems like he's capable of being a starter.
Absolutely.
From what we've seen on the Steelers. But one that'll be a lot of fun to watch down the stretch. And I'm excited to see it because, hey, George Pickens is a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
May or may not have already put a waiver claim in for him.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get to know that.
Oh, I know nothing.
But speaking of waiver claims, some guys that I think need to be picked up with all these injuries, and just guys who've been performing well recently. Christian Watson, Packers wide receiver, is very hit or miss, but as of recently, last game he got 2 points, so we can skip past that. Game before that he got 15. So he's very hit or miss, and if anything happens to one of the other Packers targets, Christian Watson could be a good he's a good player to stash. Not someone that I would put in your starting lineup this week. But if he's available and you're in a big league, I think he's someone worth looking for. You have anyone?
I will say Javonte Williams.
100%.
100%. But I will say one thing is I would definitely put him on your team. If he's available, I would get him if you need a running back. The one hard thing is they've had some tough games, but they haven't had an entirely difficult season so far. So next game they play the Panthers. That would be a perfect game to start Javonte Williams. Then they go Ravens, Chiefs, and then they're going to play the Chiefs again. They got to play the Colts and everything. So he might not be he might not be consistently putting up 20 points like he did in the last game. But they still got the Panthers. If he scored 26 points against the Saints, I'm sure he will be able to score high against the Panthers. They're going to be playing the Raiders again. They're going to be playing the Chargers again. So, I would not hesitate to put him on my team.
Definitely. And directly benefiting, fantasy points wise from those injuries are Tampa Bay receivers and San Francisco receivers.
Mm-hmm.
For the Buccaneers, we have Jalen McMillan, rookie who played at Washington behind Odunze, and had a really good college football playoff game against Texas. He, I think, showed out really well in that game, but hasn't seen a lot of action in the NFL, just being behind Chris Godwin and Mike Evans.
Yeah.
But he has a good chance to step up, especially if the Bucs offense keeps, flying high. to the extent that they're able to. And then the 49ers, obviously Juwan Jennings, had a great start to his season, had an injury, but is questionable now. So he's coming back soon. He scored 46 against the Rams and plays against the Rams the first week of the fantasy playoffs, as most people play it. And so even just hold him in your lineup till then. But, like we mentioned earlier, actually, this is before we were on air, I think, but Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah.
If he's not picked up in your league, then he should be by this point.
Absolutely.
And then Jerry Jeudy, same reason. Even though he is the Browns' starting wide receiver, he is a starting wide receiver. And so he's someone who's definitely worth taking a look at.
Absolutely.
One more thing I want to mention. With Drake May, the Patriots' offense seems to be better than they were beforehand. And so guys like Demario Douglas are guys that I would be willing to at least stash, take a chance on, if you're in a big league like Baden and I are.
Mm-hmm. I will say, in my family league, which is smaller, yet there aren't many amazing options left, I had both Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. And so my receiving core is not super hot. So I'm probably going to have to start making some trades, see if anybody will bite.
Yeah.
Because, it's been a little rough for Baden. I'm 7th in a league of 8. On a 3-win streak, though.
Hey, nice.
So that's gotta mean for something, though.
Mm-hmm.
But I have 3 injured receivers, and Christian McCaffrey is injured. So yeah, my team is kind of falling apart. It's okay though.
Baden fell subject to the Madden curse.
I fell subject to the Madden curse. It's absolutely correct. I wouldn't trust Hank. Hank said not to draft Christian McCaffrey, and I was like,
Just based on trends. The number one never repeats.
I'm gonna do it anyway.
If I was the number one pick, it would have been really tempting because I still saw him as the safest pick.
Yeah.
But lucky for me, I just wasn't the number one pick anywhere. I got Justin Jefferson, who's been playing well, and then another league, I don't even remember, because it was I think I got Justin Jefferson first in both, so that's nice because he's been playing pretty well
For sure.
You want to hit the bottom 10 and top 10?
I think I'm ready, man.
All right, I'll start the bottom 10, and then you can start the top 10 because I got a pretty cool. Although your number one on your top 10 or like your half plays into my number one really well.
So that'll be a good transition.
Definitely good transition. And this is kind of foreshadowing of that, but number 10 on the bottom 10. What is this our third or fourth time to do this? I think it's our
third.
That's
our fourth. It's our fourth.
Episode 10. This is episode 13.
Third.
We started this.
We did 10, 11, 12, 13.
You're right. That's how math works.
Yeah,
I'm not a math major.
Me neither.
Number 10 on our fourth nice catch, bottom 10, top 10. Bottom 10, number 10. The number one team across across the 3 main divisions. Number 1 in FBS, FCS, and Division II, all lost.
Yep.
Obviously, Georgia beat Texas. And then, oh goodness, I'm forgetting who beat who. I think North Dakota State beat South Dakota State. I'll have to fact check myself on that. And then Ouachita Baptist University, who I might be a student of, knocked off number 1 Harding. And we'll talk about that more later. Maybe some foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah.
But it's always fun to see a number 1 upset, especially whenever it's a smaller school who normally doesn't get a lot of recognition. Always fun to see stuff going on like that, and always fun to see Texas lose. So I'll just throw that out there.
Whoa!
Yes, North Dakota State beat South Dakota State is how that went.
Yeah.
And so North Dakota State and South Dakota State, both FCS powers, and in-state rivals. So that's always fun too.
Mm-hmm.
But number 1 was a curse last week.
Well, technically they're not in-state rivals.
That's a good point. They're not in-state rivals. Thank you, Baden.
Hold on.
They're
I
almost.
was tracking with you for a second.
They're almost in-state
They're
rivals. I'm
Dakota
really glad you
rivals.
caught me there, Baden. South and North Dakota State. Because you have like South Carolina State, North Carolina State. Not Carolina. But
Yeah.
those are two different states, too.
Oh, goodness. We got to move on. We got to move on.
Baden, who's your number 9?
My number 9, I changed it, so I'm making sure I didn't mess up the groove. I'm going to go with the Vikings' undefeated run is over. Which genuinely, obviously we all understand they weren't going to be undefeated the whole season. It was going to come at some point. And if there was a game for them to lose, against the Lions, that was a great game. Came down to the line. So fun to watch. Like, both teams played excellent, but the Vikings lost. So that undefeated run is over. So that's my number 9.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, on that undefeated run being over, even how well they played against the Lions, who, I might continue as my Super Bowl pick from last week. Maybe. I'm just giving away my whole script. But they played really well against a really, really good team.
Yeah.
And so that's encouraging to
Definitely.
see. If they can almost beat the Lions, then they can beat almost anyone in the league.
100%. So yeah, it is definitely not a negative thing on their season. They're still looking really good. But definitely, I'm sure that hurts to have that undefeated run be done. But hey, week 6, week 5. What week is this?
I don't even know.
They made it far.
They made it really far. I think this is week 7.
This is 7, yeah.
So we're going into week 8.
They are 6-1, which is impressive.
Very impressive.
Not easy.
Definitely not easy. Number 8, I have the college football rule loopholes. Namely, 1, Oregon's time runoff. Hey, if it's a rule loophole, and I say use it, but they got it changed, so that one's out of there. But one that I'm kind of surprised hasn't been changed yet is the fake injuries, because it's been a thing for a while, but this season it seems to be a little over the top. Ole Miss was the one who went viral for doing it earlier this season, and I don't remember which team it was last week, but it looked like a coach pushed a player out onto the field so that he would fall over and be injured, but be fine. So, there has to be, obviously, if it's in the final 2 minutes, you get called a timeout. But if it's not, to avoid a delay of game or something like that, there should be some sort of penalty for it. Maybe that player can't play the rest of the drive, something like that, to where it just makes fake injuries not worth doing, because it's a loophole.
It is a loophole. And
it just makes it easier on the teams, but it makes football kind of just a little bit really, guys, play football. Don't play this game of chess.
Exactly. For number 7, I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. They were just a system and a unit on the Packers, and it's been 4 years since
a little while
since they've had that connection. I think everyone was expecting them to really show out, but Devontae Adams didn't have a good night. And neither did Aaron Rodgers, but that chemistry didn't seem to be there. Obviously, in the way they connect and act outside the field, sure, but on the field, we just didn't see that, and I think that was genuinely disappointing because I have never been was never a huge Packers fan for the longest time, and I definitely Aaron Rodgers, Devontae, it wasn't something I thought about, but I was excited. I was excited to kind of see this reunion and see how they did, and it definitely was a little bit of a letdown, I'd say.
Number 6, I have the refs changing a call, and how I titled that's a little misleading because they did the right thing by changing the call because they made the wrong call at first and they got together to discuss, which is legal. It's what they're supposed to do, and then pick up the flag or change what they had said. But Texas was throwing trash on the field during that time. And Texas, well, there have been memes going around of Texas students getting a message from some sort of law enforcement or just student life on Texas's campus that is like, hey, we realize you were throwing trash in the field during this game, and we're suspending your ticket for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So Texas is taking action, but the refs didn't take any action. We saw Cal get penalized twice for fans throwing stuff on the field. Texas didn't get anything done. Yeah, definitely. I wish that Texas fans. Well, I mean, I may be biased against them, but that they were a little. The refs were a little harsher on them.
Yeah,
because
that's definitely fair. You can't be doing that. Just it's basic sportsmanship.
Mm-hmm.
When you're losing, you gotta have sportsmanship. When you're winning, you gotta have sportsmanship, and that just was not there at all. For number
5.
3.
Oh,
5.
wait.
5, 4, 3. Number
Yep.
3. For my. Wait a minute. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, sorry. For my number 3, I have we've touched on this, but just the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Man, coming into this season, you got Christian McCaffrey. You got, Ayuk signed him to another big deal. It was looking good. And, people, I know part of me, I definitely saw them as an NFC championship team, if not a Super Bowl contender in the NFC. And, those hopes have kind of fallen apart with all the injuries, Christian McCaffrey injury. And then, now you got pretty much all your receivers being injured. Got your kicker injured. It just is not looking good. And that's just really rough. Because I love a lot of the players on the 49ers. And I've been rooting for them for 2 or 3 years. And so it's really tough. It's just been a really tough couple weeks just not seeing them be able to perform at the level they can, and then add all the injuries to that. It's tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is number 4 because I think
That's number.
Or that was number 5 because I think you skipped that one. You're number 5.
Oh my goodness.
You're good. We can just mix up the order a little.
Yeah, All right. So that was number 5. So I'll just put my number 5 where I put my number 3. Anyways,
Great. Hey, it works.
that was number 5.
Number 4, an ESPN Plus only Monday Night Football game. Sure, there was another game on, so we could watch that. And this game didn't end up being all that great. Sure, there was a walk-off field goal, but 17-15. Chargers, Cardinals, not really the game that people are going to get super mad at being ESPN Plus only. But, 20 people are going to be able to watch this game? Not really. It's a lot more than that. But
Not very many, though.
All the streaming services, Christmas Day, Netflix only games, this is watching football. It's getting expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're just getting people to make a ton of free trials.
Yeah.
So I don't know where this is going to lead to, but this is just another step towards every game being on a different streaming service or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just going to make it really hard to be a football fan.
Yeah. It's just about money.
Mm-hmm.
Money. It's disappointing, but it's
And
definitely the way that it is.
this actually ended up working well because your new number 3 leads into my number 2.
Yeah, it is a rough week. It was a rough week for just football fans living in Texas, I think. You had the Texans losing with a walk-off field goal. They played a great game. Texans-Packers is a possible Super Bowl matchup. So we got to see a little hint of that. And if that ends up being the Super Bowl matchup, it is going to be a great game. Hopefully the Texans will win that time. But, we had a close loss for the Texans. We had UT getting to number 1 and losing it that week. And And so, and I mean, also, if you live in Texas, you got to deal with the Cowboys.
Yep.
So
hey,
just being
they had a bye week this week.
They had a bye week.
Which is actually a positive.
Which is a positive.
With the injuries that the Cowboys have, it probably is a positive.
And it just gives them a time to reset, reset and look through the net for the next week. But it was definitely a rough week for Texas football fans.
Mm-hmm.
And being a Texas football fan, it was a rough week for me. All right. What do you got at your number
two? That led into this really well because Browns and Longhorns fans just showing, I already touched on this, but very bad sportsmanship. Browns cheering for your injured quarterback. You realize he's getting carted off. It's probably a season-ending injury, at least IR. And he was playing badly, and even with all the accusations against him, you should not wish evil on someone, especially your own player. You can call for him being benched. I mean, are you going to go out there and play better than him? No. But still, just
fair.
Browns fans wishing evil on their quarterback and cheering when he got injured just shows, even with all they've gone through, still doesn't justify it.
Just a lack of character there.
And then Texas throwing trash on the field with a bad call against you. They were fined $250,000 for it, and as I said, they're identifying students as suspending their game passes. But, a school should never get to that place, especially a school like Texas. Mm-hmm. If you really are the best team in the nation, then you have to deal with the refs' calls.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
It's just, both of those teams have shown pretty bad sportsmanship this past week. I have some friends at Texas, and so I'm sorry. I'm sure you weren't throwing trash on the field.
You better not have been.
Yeah, you better not have been. But still, it's just, I think that's something that just showed this past week and deserves to be on the bottom 10.
Absolutely. It's not a good look. It shouldn't happen.
Yeah. Number one,
we've already touched on this, but I just don't think it could be said enough. The number one bottom, so the worst bottom, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin being injured in the same game. I mean, and maybe I'm biased for two reasons. Having them on my fantasy team, that's rough. But more than that, I've said it multiple times, and I've stuck to it on this podcast. I have been rooting for the Buccaneers. I love the Buccaneers. I love Baker Mayfield, and this is just tough. And these are not. You could see. I mean, I was really impressed by Chris Godwin. He just seemed very tough. His character, he seemed really strong. But I mean, you could just see them in so much pain, and that it's really tough. It's really tough to watch, and in the same game, especially Chris Godwin with 40 seconds left.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what you want to see at all. It's actually one of the worst things you can see. And so it's just really hard. So definitely be praying for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's hard because, I mean, if there's a team you'd want to root for, I feel like it's the Buccaneers. Of course, unless you've been rooting for a rival team since you were a little kid or something. All around, there's nothing to not like about them, And so this is it's a tough break. So that's definitely, I think, that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, those injuries definitely deserve our bottom number one.
For sure. For more lighthearted.
Yes.
Well, actually, let me mention one thing about that. Well, you touched on it, that Chris Godwin's injuries with the minute left. Todd Bowles said that he's out there because, he's a football player. He wants to be out there. But, man, it's so hard to see a player go down with a season-ending injury in the last minute of a game.
That is over.
Mm-hmm, the game's over already. You're not going to score 2 touchdowns in a minute. And then Mike Evans, this may be his first year of his career, of the past 10 years, to not go for over 1,000 yards. Mm-hmm. Still first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
But always tough to see such consistent wide receiver go down like this, which maybe, hopefully not, just showing his career coming to a close.
Mm-hmm.
Big and negative there.
Definitely. what a career it has been.
For sure. I think he has a couple more years left in him. But
Absolutely.
it's just showing that it's slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Myles Garrett, both Texas A&M stars.
Hey, yeah.
But more lighthearted. Let's jump into the top 10. I was going to start, but you start us off on the top 10. And
All
so
right.
flows better that way.
My number 10 for our top 10 is Nick Chubb getting a rushing touchdown. Which, that might, if you don't know about Nick Chubb, that just sounds like a regular old touchdown. But he had one of the most gruesome injuries I have ever seen in the game of football last season. And it was almost guaranteed. I mean, when it happened, everyone was saying, career ending. It's done. He is done. And if you saw it, he was done. And he just scored a rushing touchdown the next year. That is insane. And I'm so happy for him because he seems like a good character. And, talking about his training, it was really funny. He said that in his rehab he didn't want all the fancy trainers and stuff they had for the Browns. He went back and he did all his rehab and his workouts at his old high school gym. Mm-hmm. That's just awesome. And so I'm really happy for him scoring that touchdown because that is big.
100%.
That is big. So, yeah, that's number 10 for me.
Definitely. Number 9, Amari Cooper's debut. Kind of went the opposite of the Devontae Adams debut. Who would have thought that the trades were going to be impactful in this way? That Amari Cooper, big impact. Devontae Adams, no impact. No, very small impact. Amari Cooper's debut, first catch with the Bills was a touchdown. Helped him to a win this week. And he may have not known the route he was supposed to run.
Yeah.
You look at the video, and he's in the slot, and Keon Coleman is outside him. And Amari Cooper looks over and kind of whoa, what do I do? And Keon Coleman just points forward, run a fade route. So that's what Amari Cooper does. Josh Allen gets him the ball in the end zone. Touchdown. And that was his first catch. So I think he'll adjust pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it also helps that the Bills have an older, more proven receiver because Keon Coleman's a great athlete. Khalil Shakir was playing really well. And even guys like Matt Collins were playing well. But having someone who is a step above career-wise and who can teach the younger guys, not only will he help him this season, I think he helps them even far past the time that he's on the Bills.
Yeah. Yeah, and also just a quick note on that. I think, I don't know if you saw, Keon Coleman just continues to impress. And just, I think, continues to cement himself as a fan favorite. And I just think we really saw his character after the game. Of course, people noticed that. And so they asked him, they were like, hey, did you have to show Amari Cooper that route? He was like, no, Amari, he knows the playbook. He just, I was just directing. I was just confirming. Mm-hmm. He's not trying to put himself up or put Amari Cooper down. He was very professional in that, and I think he's just cementing himself as a huge fan favorite. I know he's one of mine. Mm-hmm. So I just think, just on that note, it really, after that, showed it shined well on his character. So I like that.
Definitely. Number 7, college football. What?
It's Baden's number 8 now.
Oh, you're right. My bad.
Goodness gracious, Hank.
Thank you.
Man.
You stopped me.
I have for number 8, and I'm sorry if there's any Alabama fans out there. And it's not just Alabama, but Bama loses again. And I mean, for me personally, it's not just Alabama, but I like to root for the underdogs. Unless they're obviously playing a team that I personally root for, the Texans or something like that. I like it when the underdogs win. And if we, take a step back from this season, there are main teams that win in the college football arena. And just to see, obviously Georgia, Alabama, they're amazing still. that doesn't take away from that. They're playing incredibly well. Obviously, I think Georgia probably just moved up to number 1. But they're not winning every game. We're having upsets. We're having losses. And, yes, against really good teams. But also, Vanderbilt. And Tennessee's good. Tennessee's really good. But Alabama could have, in the past, they would have beat Tennessee. Well, I guess not. Tennessee beat them last year, too, didn't they?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. But, it shows, like Hank was saying, it shows a different unpredictability. Is that a word?
Mm-hmm.
An unpredictability that we haven't seen in the past. And I personally think that that's awesome. So, Bama losing again.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for me.
Yeah, and my number 7 plays into that a lot. It's just the unpredictability in college football this season. What?
I didn't realize that we had talked about that. I said, like Hank had said, but you hadn't said it. We talked about it before the podcast.
Oh, it's great. It's hard to remember. But, yeah, anyone can beat anyone, and that's always the case. I was at the game that App State beat Texas A&M. Of course, it hurt that I was rooting for Texas A&M, but just crazy to be in attendance for one of the upsets of the past. One of the biggest upsets of the past decade. But this season seems to be even more that way. And if we're making a little train here, because this is definitely how college football works. It's 100% linear, right?
Yeah.
So if you beat a team that beats a different team, you can beat that team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. That's exactly how college football
exactly how it works. That would be, it would be a lot less interesting if it worked that way.
Yeah.
But Texas lost to Georgia. Texas lost to Georgia, who lost to Alabama, who lost to Vanderbilt, who lost to Georgia State.
So Georgia State is the number 1 team in the nation.
Along those lines, NIU beat Notre Dame, but they lost to Toledo at their own homecoming game.
Yeah.
Florida State and Michigan, both unranked. BYU and Iowa State are both undefeated and lead the Big 12. Mm-hmm. SEC leaders, Texas A&M and LSU.
Yeah.
Big 10 leaders, imagine showing this to someone 2 years ago. Oregon, who wasn't even in the Big... This is their first year in the Big 10. And Indiana. Indiana is ranked above Alabama at this point in the season. Indiana is number 13, Alabama at 15. And if we just look at the preseason top 25 AP poll, the one person who gave Oregon a number 1 vote was pretty smart. Only one voter gave it to Oregon. OU is 16 preseason. Arizona and Kansas were both really highly ranked in the Big 12. And Utah, none of them are ranked. USC at 23. NC State, Iowa. And it looks very different now as of week 9. When you have Oregon at number 1 and Georgia right behind them. I think if Georgia hadn't lost, they would be number 1, obviously.
Penn State at number 3.
Penn State at 3. They've had a really good season. The Penn State-Ohio State game is going to be absolute cinema, as they say. Notre Dame's gone way back up in the rankings, as it seems that NIU game was a fluke. Pittsburgh, Illinois and Indiana both in the rankings. SMU at 22. And then, of course, Army, Navy, and Vanderbilt finishing out the AP poll.
Absolutely.
It's at college football at its finest.
Oh, yeah.
Plus
That's
Boise State. When Boise State's ranked, college football's better.
Oh, yeah.
But, man, Army, Navy is going to hit different. And this week,
Absolutely.
Navy and Notre Dame play at the Yankee Stadium.
Hey.
And College game day goes to Indiana. So I was a little surprised they didn't go to Vanderbilt in Texas in Nashville. But whatever. Indiana deserves it.
Absolutely.
In short, college football is crazy this season. Even crazier than normal. Number 7.
Boom. Number 6. Lamar Jackson. 2 things. He is now 23-1 against NFC teams. That has got to be one of the craziest records I know of.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane, really. I mean, he's almost undefeated against an entire conference, and there's only 2 conferences. He last game he finished with 5 touchdowns and 5 incompletions.
Yes.
5 incompletions is crazy, or 5 touchdowns is crazy, and then only having 5 incompletions is insane. Your touchdowns and incompletions being the same number, that's insane. Especially scoring 5 touchdowns is not easy in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy. And, I've never been a big Ravens guy, but you got to give Lamar Jackson his credit where it's due. He's playing amazing, and he's leading that team very well. So, definitely, I mean, me personally, I have thoughts on who I think MVP should be right now, but if Lamar Jackson has to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
Very clearly he has to be in there.
Third time would be crazy.
Third time would be insane.
He's
but,
playing an MVP.
It would be well-deserved. Hate to say it, but
Mm-hmm.
it would be 100% well-deserved.
But speaking of playing like an MVP, you want to guess who the one NFC quarterback to beat Lamar Jackson is?
Is it the one, the only, the greatest, Daniel Dimes?
It is. Daniel Jones is the only NFC quarterback to beat Lamar Jackson.
That may be the best stat. I think that stat in its own takes over my number 3. Forget Lamar Jackson. Daniel Jones is my number 3.
I mean, hey, give him $160 million. Just give it to him. He is the only NFC quarterback to beat Lamar Jackson.
Exactly. He has proven himself worthy.
And, I mean, obviously he is a subject of a lot of memes at this point. But just a side note, he's been a good quarterback at times.
Yes.
And so, obviously, he's playing way better than I have right to make fun of him for the most part.
He's an NFL quarterback, and we're not.
Absolutely.
So even though he's
a little
kind
bit
of been he's a meme. He's a little bit of the laughing stock. He's getting paid $160 million also. 60 or 90?
I think 160.
160 million.
Mm-hmm. But this game, he was 19 of 27, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, 17 of 32, 210 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. And that was in 2022, I believe week 6 of 2022. But just thought that stat was funny.
It is.
Number 5.
That was 5, so I'll go 4. Yep, number 5.
Okay, number 5. Along those lines, Jared Goff and the Lions offense. The last 4 games, Jared Goff has had 9 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, and 15 incompletions in the last 4 games. And offense overall, because the Lions are a big rushing offense, more touchdowns and incompletions in the last 4 games. This team, even without Aiden Hutchinson, is playing like a Super Bowl team. I love where Dan Campbell has taken this team. Ben Johnson's play calling is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So fun to watch. So easy to jump on this bandwagon. But, man, the Lions have been showing, maybe who's the best team in the NFL. Maybe. Even though they have that 1 loss. I don't think it's a stretch to say they're the best team in the NFL at this point.
Absolutely not. And how cool is that? Especially just all the story behind the Lions. Mm-hmm. That would be amazing.
Yeah, Browns fans, it's not too far away.
Number 4. This is a good one. I like this one a lot. Ricky Pearsall.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Pearsall being back and playing in his first NFL start, I believe. How cool is that? He was shot in the chest 2 months ago. He was literally fighting for his life, protecting himself, and now he. It kind of reminds me of Brian Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Just to have that happen to you, and then come back and play in the NFL I mean, first off, it just shows your passion and your drive and your work ethic, but also it's just amazing. It's a miracle. Really, it is. And so that was just awesome. And now, I mean, undeniably, he's going to have to see a lot of action on the field now. They're going to be throwing to him. They have to be throwing to him. And so that's pretty cool. So I'm excited about that. I think that's really awesome. Happy for him.
Definitely. Yeah, such a good story. And I mean, it seems like he's going to be the 49ers' main weapon these next few weeks.
Yeah.
Speaking of coming back from an injury, number 3, Brady Cook. And you may not know that name, but quarterback from Missouri. In the second quarter, he had an ankle injury, went to the tent, went to the locker room, was taken to the hospital. Fourth quarter, he comes back and leads his team to a comeback win and a game-winning drive.
Yeah.
After being in the hospital. Man, this one of the craziest stories of the week that is largely going unnoticed, I think. I mean, he was in the hospital. He said he didn't feel any pain when he was on the field. Maybe a lot of adrenaline, maybe a lot of painkiller, probably both. But he said, it's his last year of eligibility, and he said, I only have 2.5 more games to play in front of these fans, and I'm not going to waste it in the hospital. So, just crazy determination, love for the fans, a lot of grit. I mean, if I did whatever he did to his ankle, I probably wouldn't want to walk for the next 2 weeks. And he's like, no, I want to get tackled more this game. But he led his team to come back win over Auburn at his home stadium, senior year. Makes me want to root for Brady Cook.
Absolutely.
Number 2?
Absolutely. And that's just an awesome... And I just think it really shows the character and the heart there. For my number 2, I have... This is awesome. So I say, you are an OBU student, which we may be.
Maybe.
I was not able to go to the OBU Harding game. And in all honesty, I didn't really want to. I was expecting... I mean, I hate to say this, but I wasn't expecting it to go well.
I never lost faith.
I was expecting a blowout. I'm not as faithful as Hank to the OBU Tigers.
I probably should have been a little less optimistic, but
no, don't walk back on it now. Don't talk yourself down. You held true. But so I didn't go to the game. But I was as I was heading back to my dorm, I drove past the stadium while the game was going on. And I heard one of my professors losing his mind over the game. He was announcing the game. He announces for all the OBU games, and I heard him losing his mind I was probably 300 yards away from the press box from the stadium. And I could very clearly, I could tell who it was, and I could tell what he was yelling about. And so when I got back to my dorm, first thing I did was pull up the game, and I was able to watch the second half. But oh my goodness, was it hilarious and extremely impressive, just hearing how into it my professor was getting, and I loved it. Mm-hmm. Loved every second of it.
Yes.
So that was my number 2.
So good. Number 1 for me plays right off of that. And overall, I try not to be biased in this podcast, but maybe this is a good thing to be biased, because normally you don't hear about Division II wins like this, because Division II goes largely unnoticed. But Division II, number 1 upset, like we mentioned, Ouachita Baptist University Tigers. They were ranked number 9. Now the number 5 beat the number 1 Harding Bison. And just some stats about Harding. I had some written down here, and then it just so happens that before we recorded this podcast, some Ouachita students recorded the Ravine Rundown, which, listen to that. It's awesome. Talks about all of our sports. But I have their notes right here. They left them in here. And so, Harding was on a 25-game win streak, including their national championship win from last year.
Yep.
They were averaging 550 total yards per game. This season, they've been outscoring opponents by an average of 61-2. One of their running backs averaged 19.1 yards per carry. Ouachita held him to 2.3 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Ouachita overall held them to 228 total yards and 13 points, and they themselves scored 17 to knock off the number one team. And it was maybe the most electrifying football game I've ever been to.
I wasn't even there, and I could feel the energy from a mile away. Literally from a mile away, probably.
I got to the tailgate like hours before it started, as you do at tailgates. I go in like an hour before the game, and you can just feel the energy. Because sometimes Division II games, especially when you're a really good team, you can kind of expect that it's gonna be 40-0 at halftime. Most people are gonna leave at halftime, but this one had so much energy to it.
Yeah.
And the visiting stands were full too because Harding wanted to see this top 10 matchup. And then they scored in their opening drive, and then we scored 7-7, and then some field goals. It was 13-10, and then because of the size of our stadium, I was able to get really close to the field for one of our touchdowns, and one of our wide receivers threw a pass to our quarterback for the go-ahead touchdown with about 10-15 minutes left in the game, and I was standing about 10 feet from him, and that was so fun. But the most fun part, and what my number one really was, is that not only did we have number one upset in Division II, we had a field storm in Division II.
Oh, yeah.
And yours truly, Hank Lay, may have helped lead the charge.
Yes, sir.
But
yes, sir.
Just running out onto the Tiger logo in the middle of the field and with the team, with the student section, oh my goodness. It was
feeling of victory.
I never, it was a Division II team. I didn't think field storms happened in Division II. But to happen my freshman year against a team who last year broke the NCAA rushing record and was averaging to break it again this season, break their own record, and then we beat them.
Yeah.
It was, I watched, not in person, A&M beat Alabama in 2021 with Seth Small's game-winning field goal. This may take the cake. This was an amazing game. The whole time I was standing up, metaphorically on the edge of my seat the whole time.
I was on the edge of my seat. I was sitting down, and I was on the edge of my seat.
So good. And maybe the best football game of the weekend. There were some good football games this weekend. Oklahoma State BYU on Friday night was wild. Miami beating Louisville was wild. But the Ouachita Baptist University Tigers beating the number one Harding Bison, I think that may take the cake.
I think it absolutely does.
Even unbiased, man, so good. That has to take number one on the Nice Catch top 10 of this week.
Absolutely.
And man, I think it's looking like a pretty good season for us for Ouachita.
Absolutely. Gotta finish strong.
Can't but
get lazy.
Division II playoffs are within reach at this point, and so fingers crossed. December 21st in McKinney, Texas. So if the Tigers are there, show up, show out. I'll be there if the Tigers are there.
Yes, sir.
But let's finish off this episode, as is our tradition, with a Super Bowl pick based on this past week and this past season. For me, I am sticking strong with the Lions and the Texans. I know the Texans lost, but I think if they can get offensive line help, they're debatably the best team in the NFL. If they can improve their offensive line, C.J. Stroud has time to throw. They have Joe Mixon, who is still a good back, and some good change of pace backs there too. Mm-hmm. Great wide receiver core. I think the deepest core in the NFL. And a defense who's really proving themselves to be possibly the best defense in the league.
Yeah.
But I'm switching it up a little bit. I now have the Lions beating the Texans. Ooh. So I think this is my first time this season to have the Texans not winning the Super Bowl. And offensive line is just really hard to overcome. And so I'm not quite ready to say Texans Super Bowl after seeing the time that C.J. Stroud had to throw the past couple weeks.
I hate to feel like I'm copying you, but after watching the Lions play and just their whole season, seeing how Jared Goff is leading the team, I definitely go Lions and Texans, barring, like you're saying, the offensive line, because that was really hard to watch against the Packers. I mean, it was a great game, and what they really did well is they adjusted and they utilized their run game, and Joe Mixon ran really well. They adjusted where they needed to. It obviously wasn't quite enough, but I mean, he had C.J. Stroud had no time to throw, and he was visibly frustrated. And so I absolutely think that the Texans will win the Super Bowl. Texans beating the Lions.
Okay.
Because I don't see us it's so clear that the offensive line has issues. I think that's the big thing that they're going to be focusing on, fixing that, because they need to. So I'm going to go Texans beating the Lions.
Okay, there you go, man. That was a good episode. That was fun.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed getting to do that.
Really good episode.
Every now and then, there's a reason for us to mention our school, and now is not only a good time to mention our school. It was the time. And we'll bring it up again with Battle of the Ravine, which is an amazing rivalry that you'll get to hear about in a couple weeks. You as in the listener, thanks for listening. We always appreciate you.
Of course.
But maybe once they get to the playoffs, pray hands.
Pray hands. Pray hands.
That's an unintentional Lego Batman quote. But watch the Lego Batman movie. It's great.
You have to.
But yeah, that's college football and NFL this week. If we're talking about other football leagues, UFL tickets are on sale. So if there's a UFL team near you, check it out.
Yeah.
But Texans Lions, really good teams, and
Absolutely.
I think we still have faith even through the tough Texans game this past week.
Yeah.
So, well, great episode, and thank y'all for listening to the Nice Catch podcast. If you love football, continue to tune in each episode for football news and analysis from the off season all the way through the playoffs. This is the Nice Catch podcast.